Chapter 63:47. The Rothschild father and son, both satisfied, chatted happily on the way to the palace. Simon liked Steve more and more, and kept sighing in his heart that he had given birth to a sensible and filial son. Steve got his father's approval, and his mood was naturally very good. He just hoped to move to China as soon as possible to get close to Charlie and improve their friendship. Steve thought that going to China would definitely be beneficial and harmless, even if he couldn't get Charlie's support in inheriting the family. He had a good chance of getting some pills from Charlie by kneeling and licking him. It was much better than staying in the United States, under the old man's nose, being suspected, guarded against, and hated by him. So, the father and son had their own thoughts. However, the relationship between them returned to a harmonious state when Steve was young. When the two arrived at the palace, the royal guards were already waiting on both sides of the road inside the palace. Knowing that Simon was a man who loved face, Helena also arranged for him the highest courtesy of the Nordic royal family. In the square in front of the main building of the palace, Helena and the old queen stood side by side. After the Rothschild father and son got out of the car, they came to the two and kissed their hands respectfully. Simon looked at Helena and said with gratitude, "Your Majesty, thank you for your invitation. It is an honor for our Rothschild family to come to the Nordic palace to have dinner with you and Mrs. Iliad." Helena smiled and said, "Mr. Rothschild is too polite. You two are guests of the Nordic royal family. It's like returning to your own home here. Don't be too polite." After that, she said, "You two, the dinner is still being prepared. It will start in 2 hours. I will take you to visit the palace first." Simon said hurriedly, "That's great. It's an honor to have Her Majesty take us on a tour in person." Helena nodded gently, smiled dignifiedly, and then took the father and son to visit from the main hall of the palace. The so-called visit is actually an expression of goodwill to Simon. Charlie wants to take a two-pronged approach to squeeze value from Simon and Steve, so the face and benefits that should be given will naturally not be too stingy. Helena's goodwill toward Simon was the core motivation for Simon to continue working for Helena. Steve followed his father and accompanied him on the tour like an obedient quail. During this period, his father and Helena kept talking, but Steve didn't say much. His mind was not on visiting the Nordic palace or the Nordic queen Helena. He only thought that Charlie said he would come to Northern Europe when he was in China, and he didn't know if he was in the palace at this moment. So, while Helena was introducing the royal art collection to her father Simon, he took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Charlie. The content of the message was, "Mr. Wade, are you in Northern Europe?" Charlie quickly replied, "I am having dinner in the banquet hall of the Nordic royal family." Steve was startled and thought to himself, "Why is Charlie also in the banquet hall? Could it be that Helena invited him and his father at the same time, and also invited Charlie? Wouldn't it be awkward if they met?" In addition to being nervous, he hurriedly replied to the message and asked Charlie, "Mr. Wade, are you going to have dinner with us later?" Charlie replied, "No. I will leave after eating. It is more than an hour before your dinner starts. You probably won't see me." Steve breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Charlie did not intend to meet his father. In this case, he naturally had no psychological burden. So, he quickly asked again, "Mr. Wade, can I come to the banquet hall to meet you? I have something to tell you in person." Charlie replied, "Come if you want to." Steve wanted to see Charlie, not only to get close to him, but also to tell him that he was about to go to China to stay permanently. Seeing that Charlie also agreed to meet, he quickly said, "Okay, Mr. Wade, wait a moment, I'll be there soon." Then, he thought for a moment, walked to Helena and Simon, and said, "Excuse me, Your Majesty, which way is the bathroom?"